Good evening and welcome to the No Script Show. I'm Adams Van Sale or Conscious Caracal, and I'm joined by our US correspondent and resident Florida man, Odin Moja. And we haven't done an episode in a while. So this episode we're gonna have a lot to catch up on. I hope you all bought your No Script Show stock because that's been to the moon.
Uh, to the moon. Resident Florida fan and US card. I like that. I like that title. I'm gonna add that to like my Twitter banner, like Resident Florida US correspondent of at No Script Show.
Yeah, dude. I think your Twitter bio just gets more refined by the month. I think that'll be a welcome addition.
Yeah, I
So,
actually can't remember what my bio is right now, but yeah,
just
yeah.
maybe for context, Florida isn't that cold. It's not sharing the same cold as Texas at the moment, right?
Northern Florida, where I am, is pretty chilly. But it's nowhere near this Texas sub-zero temperatures. Like it's in the single digit degrees Celsius, so it's in the like right now it's like 8 degrees. At night it gets down to a couple of nights ago it got down to like 2, 3 degrees Celsius. And it's spring right now, so this cold snap's pretty brutal, especially in Florida, in states like Florida and Texas. But southern Florida, because I'm in Tallahassee, which is the state capital, not Miami, and it's really north of Florida. It's like a 30-minute drive away. I mean, yeah, 30-minute drive away from Georgia. So it is very up in the northeast sort of panhandle area of Florida, not on the tail end that people associate Florida with.
Mm. Yeah, man. But it seems like you've settled in. It's been a few weeks now since you've officially become a Floridian. It's well, no, it's been more than a month now.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
Mm.
Probably does for my wallet, but it doesn't feel like it to me.
Right, dude. So, do you have any experiences or stuff to share from that side in regards to what a South African finds in the US? Maybe before you do that, explain your Twitter banner, the South African.
Oh shit, I completely forgot that I Twitter. Oh, is it still? Hold on. Jamie, pull that up. Hold on, I was just gonna pull it up. Yeah, that's still my banner. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, they don't get a lot of South Africans here in Florida, obviously, and I was really enjoying the last season of The Mandalorian, so I decided to use that meme template to just change it to me as the South African everywhere I go. And that's my new sort of persona now. On top of the suits, cigars, and whiskey, it's the South African, and it's just the music playing in the background as I wander through Florida.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, I can understand why they're not used to any South Africans in their environment. So they might be treating you like a extraterrestrial if you do approach them. So maybe it's not too far off.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like my own, like I said, my own little adventure as like, the South African. Doo-doo-doo.
Hmm.
We're gonna need somebody to like put a theme song together for me as I wander through Florida. Like we could do it like the Mandalorian every
Have you
episode.
found the alligator with the knife in its head yet?
I have not. Sadly, I have not, but I will. And once whoever pulls the knife from its head becomes the king of Florida, as everyone knows.
Hmm. Yeah, dude. So maybe we should start off. I mean, it counts as a semi-tech topic, I guess, the whole GameStop thing that was referenced in the intro of the show.
Yeah, so GameStop to the moon, okay? Because apparently, um, a bunch of dudes on Reddit having chicken tendies and a beef against Wall Street are smarter than all the, all the gathered knowledge of years of finance school training and all that. And so, for the five of you who are unaware of what happened with this GameStop to the moon thing is there is a subreddit on this message board called Reddit that I frequent quite a lot. And there's a subreddit there called R Wall Street Bets. And Wall Street Bets is, well, it's a lot what it sounds like. It's all about people like day traders, just average kids, and just dudes on the couch making money bets and just trying to, game the stock market. And one day they decided, you know what? And it's ironic that they were sending GameStop to the moon after years of GameStop being the villain. But anyway,
yeah, and GameStop's slogan is literally "power to the players."
Exactly. So it's beautiful irony.
It's the perfect symbolism. Yeah,
it's perfect. I couldn't have written this better. So one day they got together and they're like, you know what? We're tired of these stockbrokers shorting stocks. And so for those of you who do not understand what shorting is, and there's a lot of debate to be had about the legality of it, I personally almost don't mind it. What I do mind is the companies that when they lose in shorting, getting bailed out by the government. Like if you made that bad bet, you should bear the consequences of it. But that's the part that pisses me off about shorting. It's not the shorting itself. So shorting is basically a stock market sort of strategy, I guess you could call it, whereby if I see stock in a company and I think that company is overvalued or it's going to go down or it's going to plummet, and there is an argument for shorting in that it's a market mechanism to readjust the prices of stuff that's overvalued. But anyway, I see company A and I think company A is overvalued and it's going to go down soon. And my friend Ernst here has 10 stocks in company A, and each of those stocks are worth R1. So I know that it's going to go down. So what I do is I go to Ernst, and they allow you to borrow stocks. So I go to Ernst and I borrow his 10 stocks, and those 10 stocks now belong to me. And as the stock price of the company, as the market does its thing, and I have those stocks at 10 Rand because each of them are R1. I say, look, I'm going to give you these stocks back in a month or 2 months or 3 months, and I'm going to give you these stocks back plus R1. So I owe you 11 Rand, right? So the market does its thing, and the company crashes, whatever, and it goes up and down and all that, and then the price of the stock plummets further and further and further. I eventually re-signal that company, and the price of the stock goes up to, let's say, R2 a stock. So my 10 Rand stocks are now worth 20 Rand. So I then, when it's re-upped its stock price after its whole plummet, I then give Ernst his stocks back plus R1. So that's 11 Rand I've given him, and I've made 9 Rand profit. The problem with this is that often people will signal to the market, and stockbrokers will signal to the market illegally, or semi-illegally, to force a stock going down. So what the GameStop kids did is they decided, we're going to do what's called a short squeeze. And the short squeeze is that as you see somebody shorting a stock, you purposely buy it. You purposely drive it into like, as they say, the moon. And so what the GameStop what do you call it? Like the GameStop revolution crew did, is that they saw these people were shorting GameStop, and they didn't allow it to dip. In fact, they got everybody and their mothers to buy so much GameStop stock that it caused a short squeeze where it just goes through the roof, the price. And now these people have to give those stocks that they borrowed back, but the price is so high that they can't possibly make a profit off of. Like, it's just they have to buy back those stocks at such a high price. It is ridiculous. I think the GameStop price it went, what was it? I saw it was like it increased by like 1,500%.
Yeah, if I look at the old price, so it was $17 for one stock in January 2020, in 8th of January. Then it jumped to 347%, $347 per stock at its peak, and that is, let's see, yeah, you're not going to be able to see what percentage of growth that is, but yeah, it's it's pretty significant.
That is, yeah, that's crazy.
But what's also, I don't know exactly, I don't know enough about this topic to be able to know what the damage is, but it went up to $350 per stock, and now it's back down to about $40 per stock. So everyone's sold.
They stopped holding. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. There's probably some diehards still there, still holding, but I think that meme is over.
Yeah. But the best thing about it is that it kind of taught people some mechanisms about the stock market.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, that's the big thing, is that the big success was never going to be giving a middle finger to Wall Street. The big success of this was exposing Wall Street. I mean, and this is something that we saw pretty much blown open by this scandal, was the stock buying app Robinhood delisted those stocks, GameStop and other stocks that were being short squeezed, and that just exposed the entire charade. So when some billionaire hedge fund manager wants to buy stocks, then it's fine. But when the people want to buy stocks, then it gets delisted. And also, there were reports of Robinhood also selling people's GameStop stock without their permission, citing that they are protecting them against exceptional market volatility.
Yeah.
So some very scummy stuff happened here. A lot of court cases on the horizon. There was also some people that committed suicide due to not due to this case specifically, but due to some of the practices of Robinhood, where you will get, for example, access to certain types of markets when you're like 18 or 19 years old that you shouldn't have access to, where you get like a loan of hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can then invest. I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, this happened in one case where there was a guy that was allowed there to buy certain types of stock that he was not experienced enough to do, and then one day when he woke up, he got a email from Robinhood that said he owed $700,000, but this was not the case. This was just a problem with their system, and then he committed suicide. So this is it has opened the door to a lot of people entering the stock exchange and buying stocks, but at the same time as well, I do find it funny that a company called Robinhood actually was not the good guy in this story.
Yeah, how's that for irony?
No, absolutely. And yeah, so it's I can't tell you how many millions of dollars were lost or billions of dollars were lost and whether some of it was recouped. But what I can tell you is that the system was laid bare. A lot of things were exposed, and I think that's the big victory of it all, the long-term victory.
Yeah, for sure. And now it's like, I like to say that the GameStop people weren't the killers of the system. They were just the coroners. They came there and they declared it. Look, it's clearly dead. You know, they didn't kill the system. They're the ones that said, this is clearly dead now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens in the future in regards to this. I think we're going to see a lot of stringent measures being introduced that will not allow this to happen again. But a lot of people peeked behind the curtain and they saw the system for what it is, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, like you said, that's the actual victory now. They can put all the measures in place that they want, but now people know and they won't forget.
Absolutely. Um, is there any other news story that really stood out to you that you wanted to discuss, Odin?
Yeah, well, we were discussing the whole Texas cold snap thing,
Oh,
and
right.
there's a lot to unpack there, actually. Um,
Is this maybe as the US correspondent, can you give us some context? Is this definitely like an unprecedented record year in regards to Texas weather, or what is there more to the story?
this is something that happens once every 120 years or something. So, yeah, the state of Texas and outlying closer areas of Florida were utterly unprepared. And people are like, well, why didn't they build a, well, why would you build your house with insulation in a place where it would be like if an overbearing cold snap happened in, I don't know, Durban in December, like
Mm,
frost. It started snowing in Durban in December type thing.
mm,
It's just such a freak. I mean, theoretically it could happen, but it's just such a freak thing that so many factors needed to be at play for it to even happen. It's like so. The real thing here is okay. So initially, the temperature started coming down, and people just a lot of the houses here, unlike in states like Vermont and New York, they don't have as much insulation down here. So to counter that, they just started running the thermostats, the heating and ventilation in their houses and all that, and that was fine. And then the temperature kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping, and it got to the point where, you know, obviously homeless people were dying of exposure in Texas, and even people in houses were in their like the water in their fire suppression systems, in the fire suppression pipes was freezing solid. The water in their regular water pipes was freezing solid. The heating system out. They lost power because I mean people were sitting in their cars just putting the aircon in their cars. They and people in Texas who've never really had to drive through snow were just like spazzing all over the road because they've never had to deal with this. And they were woefully unprepared in terms of clothing. So now the question is, why did their power systems start to resemble a weekend of load shedding in South Africa? And the problem is there is so the market, the federal government has forcibly subsidized wind power in Texas to the point where it artificially drives down the price of wind turbines. And so Texas had this sort of forcible mass investment in wind turbines. And the problem with that is, as it turns out, if your power generation for things like wind turbines, um, um, and also quite a bit of natural gas, because Texas, um, if your power generation system requires an exposed motor to turn, and that motor is, as I mentioned, exposed, then in temperatures where things freeze solid, that motor is going to stop turning. It's not that there wasn't wind blowing. There's plenty of wind blowing stuff around. The problem is that the air is so cold, it froze the wind turbines solid. Natural gas lines were freezing up because it was so cold. The little power that they had was mostly due to a couple of their nuclear power stations and their old school and their good old fashioned coal things. Now, my opinion on this. Oh, one nuclear power station did actually shut down, but it's not because it was having a meltdown or whatever. It's because one of the sensors in the system was malfunctioning, and so it actually automatically shut down, which actually speaks to the safety of nuclear power in that we can now build nuclear stations so sophisticated that if one thing goes wrong, they can be like, okay, we can cut this off here and now. So I'll get into that in a second. So my opinion on this is that if I know a lot of people like to quote Fukushima and Chernobyl, but in terms of absolute numbers, nuclear power has killed very few people. Very few people. as opposed to people who grew up in the shadow of a coal fire station or something like that. Um, so and also Chernobyl was, if anyone's ever taken 5 minutes to actually look at it, was a system of so many. It's first of
Yeah.
all, it was a Gen 1 power station, not like a Gen 3 or Gen 4 uranium power station. And it wasn't even, and that's just uranium. Never mind once we get to thorium salt power stations, which is even safer. But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, you can tell them like Chernobyl was, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, well, Chernobyl was just this almost. It was almost a cinematic uh, combination of human error, where, for example, there would be like four fail safes, and every fail safe would fail because of some stupid, strange, bizarre human error. So it was just a collection of failures. But yeah, if you use Chernobyl as an example on why nuclear power shouldn't be used, then you should never get on a plane because of one plane crash or because of 9/11. So it's not a good argument. And if you really care about green energy and you care about the environment, then nuclear energy is the way to go. But for some reason, there is still a debate surrounding it. But I think what's happened in Texas now really just shows how frail wind power really can be. And also solar, I reckon. I haven't seen any stories on how solar was crippled, but I reckon 2 or 3 meters of snow on your solar panel is not going to be great.
No, no, it's not. Uh, yeah, it's really gonna. Yeah, snow gonna do that to you. Cold gonna do that to you. Um, so yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, really, if you care about it, like, we should seriously look at nuclear. But that actually kind of leads me to one of the things I did want to discuss with you, which is Cancun cruise.
Cancun Cruz, when Ted Cruz went on holiday but didn't lock down. That story.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple of things to unpack there. First of all, I love that he said his daughters asked if they could go on holiday in Mexico, so he went with his wife and kids on holiday in Mexico. Okay, so there's a couple of things there. Okay, people are saying that this is super hypocritical of Ted Cruz to go on holiday. In the most technical sense, I say no, it is not. It is bad optics, but it is not hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is when you create a rule or advocate for something, but you do not abide by it yourself. Last time I checked, Ted Cruz is not advocating for lockdowns. He's not advocating for lockdowns. He's not making rules of locking people down in a state, and neither is I can't remember the governor in Texas, Greg Abbott. They're not advocating lockdowns. I mean, I think Texas is probably the most open state next to my own state of Florida and South Dakota are pretty much open. Like, we basically almost never lock down. Couple of miles here and there, but we basically almost never lock down. Now, actual hypocrisy would be someone like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who shut down restaurants and all that and said you have to lock down and all that, and then proceeded to go eat dinner at French Laundry, the fancy restaurant place. That is hypocrisy, because he's creating a rule for thee that does not apply to me. That is why Ted Cruz going on holiday is not hypocrisy. Hypocrisy would be Lori Lightfoot making rules about salons and all that in Chicago, and then going to have her hair done, which is what she did. Now, is it bad optics? Absolutely. It is tone deaf and it is bad optics. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this type of stuff, but yeah, I get why it looks bad, but it is not technically hypocrisy. It is bad optics. What he should have done, he should have sent his daughters off to have their vacation, but stayed himself and be visible on the scene. And he's probably going to suffer for that in the next election. But again, I just want to make it clear. I don't know, I'll give you a second to talk about it if you want, but I just want to make it clear, guys, that's not hypocrisy. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it, Odin, because for me, it's such a non-story. We've seen so many real cases of hypocrisy from lockdown backers that this isn't really such a big story for me. It didn't really blow my mind. And I don't think it's going to be nothing more than I don't think it's going to be anything more than a little blip on the political radar. My question is, however, do you think when Ted Cruz visits Mexico, he refers to himself by his full name, Rafael?
Ooh. I
I
wonder.
don't think he's Ted anymore when he goes to Mexico.
He probably isn't. He probably is. Have you seen that picture of him with the mullet?
No.
There's a picture where he looks like he's like, you know, when somebody goes on the holiday and they just like
Oh, wait.
get that.
Yes. I just Googled it. Jamie pulled it up.
You pull that up.
That's a very Raphael look.
I'm just wondering, did he get that done before he went to Cancun or in Cancun?
That's the question, bro. Looks like he was dealing some stuff in Cancun. That hairstyle. Threatening some folks.
I just think it's the best day, like Ted Cruz with the mullet, bro. Oh man, that is, yeah. Do you think his kids let him do that? Like they're like, Dad, please don't get that haircut or whatever. Like,
no, maybe he lost a bet.
You think so?
I think so, dude. It's just too bizarre. It's not normal. It's not even like it's the big fashion right now. It's very outdated as well.
Yeah, and I think this was a bet that went wrong for old Ted Cruz. Yeah. Speaking of bets, I played some poker last night.
Oh yeah? Did you win anything?
Actually, I won everything. Too bad we weren't playing for actual money. I was playing some poker with my friends in the College Libertarians of FSU. So yeah.
Yeah, and have you found a bar or something there in your area that's like your regular place already?
I have two. One across the street from me, which is actually ironically called Cancun's, and I'm not even kidding, dude. Like I'm gonna send you a picture. Like they have the full on like, and I'm not kidding when I say this. Their tagline is "Where it's spring break every day." I'm not even kidding. That is really, really the tagline of that place. And then the other place is called the Palace Saloon. And the Palace, okay, so here in the States, they differentiate between, when you say liquor, we mean alcohol, obviously. But here, when they say liquor, they mean hardtack. So the Palace Saloon just sells beers and, oddly enough, sake, Japanese sake. Shout out to Durish, my favorite barman there. So the Palace Saloon is across the road from the historic and great big Doak Campbell football stadium, which is just immense. It is, again, like we were discussing this on a previous episode, it's a stadium that seats 80,000 people. The total number of students in FSU is only about 41,000 or so.
Right, but there's a story connected to the palace that you just mentioned. You might as well segue into that, I reckon.
Yeah. So, my mates and I, the last 2 nights have been fairly boozy. And Friday night, there were a couple of us just there. It was a fairly empty little haunt, the palace. And when we were done with our imbibement of liquor, I decided. So around here, there's a pretty good bus schedule and a pretty good. I mean, aside from Uber and Lyft, the buses are pretty good. But there's also these little motorized moped things called spins that you download the app and you can scan, and you can hire them temporarily. You just like scan the QR code and it unlocks the accelerator and all that, and you can drive around on it. It's a little electric thing. So my house is like a couple of blocks away. Um, and I think, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm feeling very confident. Got my hat on. You know my style, bro. And people
Right.
who've seen me online, they've seen my style. I'm looking suave. I'm feeling confident, more confident than ever. And I think to myself, you know what would make me the coolest guy ever? Instead of walking away, I just scan one of these bad boys and just ride off. So that's what I decide to do. I proceed to scan into a spin. It unlocks, vroom, rev it up, and I go. And I'm starting to gun it. Wind in my hair. I'm the coolest guy in Tallahassee until I hit a bump in the sidewalk, which I didn't see in time because I was drunk. And then I proceed to flip over this thing and just completely eat it on the pavement and just like scrape my knee and throw out my shoulder and massively bruise my hip. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a fracture there. And I lay myself down and suddenly I realize I'm staring up at the night sky of Tallahassee, stars and all. And I realize, you know what? This may not have been my best idea ever. And it, just like in those movies, there's like that record scratch freeze frame. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation. That was me. It's like, yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
Or the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme starts to play.
Yeah, dun, 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 dun. I was like, ha. Well, I could have done this better.
Mm. No, man, but those are the type of stories that you have that you can then tell on a podcast.
Yeah, well, I also won poker last night, so yeah.
Mm.
We were playing poker in my friend's garage, so yeah.
That's cool, dude. There was a big football victory, American football victory that the other day, or not the other day, a while back that you celebrated, but we haven't had a show yet in the meantime, so maybe you can give us some idea on what went down there. It sounded like it was a once in a lifetime thing.
Right. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Buccaneers, the type of pirate people. Tampa Bay is one of the major cities in Florida. I know most people either think of Orlando or Miami, but Tampa Bay or Jacksonville. Tampa Bay is one of the major cities here. I'm actually a Miami Dolphins football fan, but Tom Brady, who is in my opinion, the antichrist of American football, I've despised him with all my being for years when he was winning Super Bowls with the Patriots, the New England Patriots. And the reason I despised him is not just because he was winning, but also because the entire New England Patriots team are just such douchebags. Bill Belichick is such a miserable old cunt, and he never smiles. He's just such a horrible, miserable man. And the entire New England Patriots football team. Imagine if your high school bully kept putting your head in a toilet, went on to be a football player. Now imagine an entire team made out of those douche nozzle rich kid high school bullies, and that's the entire New England football team. So Tom Brady was winning with them, and then he retired for a while, and then his buddy Rob Gronkowski, aka Gronk, who's just like an absolute unit of muscle, came down to Tampa Bay to play for the Buccaneers. And Tom Brady decided, you know what? I'm going to come out of retirement and play one more. And so he played with the Buccaneers. And he took them to the Super Bowl, which is, I mean, they were this nowhere team. They were, I don't know, pick like the lowest rank FA Cup football team you can imagine, just like Coca-Cola League, bottom of the Coca-Cola League. Is it still a Coca-Cola League?
Coca-Cola League, no, I don't think so. I don't know what it's now.
Jamie, pull that up. Anyway, yeah, so they were just nowhere. They were just, let's say they were Derby County. You ever heard of Derby County or Brentford?
Yeah, Brentford or Derby County are in the championship.
Yeah, imagine they were them, and out of absolutely nowhere, they they just start crushing people with Gronk and Tom Brady on their side, and like they're one of those teams where, with American football, it's obviously the whole town supports that team, but it's a generational thing. Like your grandfather was a fan, his grandfather, and they had one before, but it'd been ages. It'd be a long time, and so eventually they get to the Super Bowl, and it's them against the previous year's winners, the Kansas City Chiefs, and led by their quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who was just nowhere that day. Like that dude just spazzed out everywhere. And Tom Brady and the Buccaneers absolutely bodied these guys. It was unfair. I think they actually should have stopped the game like halfway through. Tom Brady and so Tampa Bay, Florida went ballistic, but Tampa Bay specifically was insane. It was absolutely insane. I've seen videos of people actually rushing bars, like just a wave. They just rushed through the security gates. It's just like there were people like uprooting trees. There were people trashing cars. The police were just nowhere because everyone just poof, like people's cars were getting vandalized, flipped over. The bars were getting rushed. People were like, there's videos of them like jumping over bars and just like taking liquor and just losing it. It was insane. I was in Cancun's, which was pretty empty as always, and well, not always, but it was empty because everyone was in Tampa Bay. I was there with my friend Eric, and Eric's actually from Tampa Bay, and the minute that last whistle blew, the dude just loses it. He breaks down, he's crying. I'm just happy Florida won something, but he's like bawling like a baby, dude. It was so emotional. So yeah, that's the story of the Super Bowl and Tom Brady winning yet another Super Bowl ring. But Tampa Bay just loved it. They were they were ballistic, man.
How does it compare to the Springboks winning that moment?
Well, I mean, for them it was cool, but I guess for me it's a different perspective, because for me, it's like for me rugby has so much more significance, and you were there with me in that moment, winning, like being triple world champions in that moment. But for me, obviously the most, I'd say, I know what you can jump in on this, but I would say for me the most sort of big moments were at the start, when just unanimously everybody stood up and sang the national anthem, and then near the end where they just started engraving. That was some big dick energy moment where they start engraving South Africa on the cup, because this is a wrap. Those were the two big moments for me. What about you?
Yeah, man. For me, the big thing is, I think both those moments show the power of sport in regards to what it can mean for people. I'm not one of those oaks that say, oh, you should stop watching sports ball, it's just a waste of time. There's actually a lot of important symbolism in it. There's a lot of community in it. There's a lot of, interhuman, there's a lot of interaction there, a lot of socializing. It's a mechanism for socializing. It's a great thing for communities and for a person's social life. So I'm not the type of person that says, sport is dead and you shouldn't watch any sports ball anymore. I too love watching my sport, and I think both those things in their own contexts mean a lot for the people that watched it. And I mean, I can just look at the photos and the video that you shared from Florida, And
Yeah.
it shows what it meant to those people, and you can't take that away from them. It's real. It's a community feeling. It's a feeling that our tribe won. It's something very deeply ingrained in your psyche, so you're not going to get rid of that very quickly. So I think for both contexts, it's important to the people that had value, that found value in it. So those Floridians might not find any value in the Springboks winning, but a South African does. So I don't think you can really say which one is a bigger moment for those supporters. It was like the other day I saw a tweet where someone asked, "What's the biggest sporting accomplishment?" And they named something ridiculous. And but anyway, that's not the point. And my response was, there isn't really something in quotation marks the biggest sporting accomplishment, because all sports are different. Different sports require different talents, different training methods, different contexts. So I don't think you can really say there is the biggest sports achievement or biggest team sports achievement. I think there's every case and every victory needs to be analyzed on its own, on its own merit. So yeah, I think both are beautiful occasions to watch. I mean, in regards to your victory that you talked about, and also the World Cup victory, I think you can really dig into the individual accomplishments and find a lot of meaning in there, a lot of interesting stuff that happened along the way, and just a beautiful human story.
Yeah, as it's I mean, like it to see, like, I mean, my mate, but also to see some of the videos, like you see like a father and a son like just like bawling their eyes out in joy, and just like to be, especially in the current environment, you know, with the pandemic and everything, like just to see a father and son, he's like, this is your dad, man, just in this grown up moment, and he's just broken down from the immense joy and the meaning from that he draws. Like it's difficult to encapsulate that. Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's a beauty and a great symbolism in sport, and I don't think you'll ever be able to rob humanity of it. I think sport plays a very important role in culture and in community. And anyone that tells you, it's just sports ball, it needs to be, it's a thing of the past, I don't think they've really experienced one of those real underdog victory moments. I think it's undescribable.
I think the sports ball people and our mutual friend and / associate Roman Kavanagh used to be very guilty of this, is that the people who are like, sports ball, are people who are like sports ball, that it's gotten to, originally it was kind of edgy and cool, like it gave you that slight edginess that you're such a nonconformist, but at this point it's gotten such a tired little meme that like anyone who's still doing the sports ball thing is just, it's so cringe. It's so cringe, right? Like, no, come on, man. Like, it's just, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, there's some amazing stuff to be found in sport, and I think that the average person appreciates that. And like I said, you can't take that away from them. But yeah, on that note, it seems like in the wake of Donald Trump's loss, or in the wake of his defeat, the online sphere has changed a lot in regards to the type of energy we're seeing from different people. You were talking about in person. We talked about, not in person, but you said like what will happen to a lot of these grifters that attach themselves to the MAGA movement. And we don't even have to get into specific ones. But yeah, it seems to me that the internet and social media, especially now with big tech cracking down, is quite a different place. But there are some welcome developments. I see a lot more people discussing ideas and discussing symbolism and discussing things that they find interesting, and not necessarily that type of news analysis that became a staple for the past 4 years, where people were just discussing the news and what was happening then. More and more people are moving away from that and more moving into, here's a book that I just read that I found very interesting, I'm going to talk about that, or here is the idea of here's an interesting concept, how does that work? And I think those types of conversations are going to become the norm very soon. I think the whole reacting to news trope or model is going to get old very quickly, and people are going to have to start innovating.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Well, first of all, there is one grift group called the Lincoln Project, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know if you heard of what happened with them.
Yeah, no, you can give some context, but I'm aware of what happened there. Yeah, no, it was an absolute crash and burn.
Okay, so the Lincoln Project was this group of grifters, or principled Republicans as they call themselves, who were basically just everything orange man bad. They're just like orange man bad everything, right? And they're like, we're the good Republicans. And I looked at this group and I said, listen, this might be fashionable now, but as soon as Donnie's out of the office, these people who are giving you a strange new respect and their admiration for your principledness are going to drop you like a hot potato. And turns out the Lincoln Project, first of all, were the grifters that I thought they were. Second, they were using a lot of the money they were fundraising to fight the MAGA movement to actually enrich themselves. And third, and here's the absolute cherry on the cake, turns out some of the people, including one of the founders, who is a gay man, but that's not the point. That's not the problem. The problem is that he was using his position of power to shall we say, proposition many workers at the Lincoln Project and coerce them sexually. And one was, I think the one, and then he even went for college kids. I think one dude was like 14 or something on Facebook. I was just like, that's not even a young man. That's a boy. That's a child. Now we're in the region of pedophilia, you know. So turns out, shock and surprise, the grifters were grifters.
Well, they're going to find out very quickly that in the post-Trump world, there's not going to be a lot of stuff for them to grift, to use for their grift, and I think a lot of them are just going to fade away into nothingness. And yeah, the Biden presidency hasn't really delivered anything major that we can discuss. He's had his recent gaffe, well, not gaffe. You're gonna have to interpret his reasoning behind what he said for yourself. But he pretty much went on television and said, when asked about the Chinese concentration camps, he said, we need to take, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, we need to take culture into account, and what's happening to the Uyghur Muslims in China is just a cultural difference, the treatment that they are suffering under the Chinese regime. So we need to be very cautious in regards to what we do there. And I'm just looking at that and I'm like, there's a difference between right and wrong. I mean, there are cultural differences, and then there's moral, heinously immoral stuff.
Yeah, I can agree more. And obviously he's getting that slack because, you know, orange man bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least it's not orange man, basically. That'll be the shall we say, saving grace for him for the next 3-4 years. I actually don't think he's going to make it through his whole presidency. That dude is degenerating.
Did you want to talk about the Mars landing? I mean, that's tech, right?
Well, I mean, at least it's not Musk, my hated enemy. I think it's great. I mean, at this point, again, I love the Mars landing, but I'm very much in the school of, and I used to be really pro Mars landing stuff. I'm very much in this. There's this. No, I'm not going to reference Isaac Arthur, by the way. I know you think I was going to, but I'm not going to. Okay, because everybody on the show knows I'm such a fanboy of that guy. There's this other scientist. What's his name? Astronomy. Jamie, pull that up. Astronomy cast with I think it's Spencer or something, or Universe Today, or something like that. Anyway, it's this Canadian guy, and Fraser Cain. He's another scientist, and Dr. Pamela Gay of the Institute of Interplanetary Science. I'm in the Fraser Cain school of thought in that gravity wells are for suckers, and a gravity well is basically, as I've discussed before, just this extra weight you incur, this debt you owe to gravity before you can escape the planet's hold. And the thing with Mars is that we're just moving from Earth, which is one gravity well, to Mars, which is admittedly a smaller gravity well, but still a gravity well. I very much think we should be, while it is nice and we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, I still push for more. I would advocate for more development into O'Neill cylinders in space, and more development of a permanent settlement on the moon, because the moon is, one, rich in various resources we need, and two, probably the smallest gravity well we can find in terms of gravity wells that we can settle on. So,
and it can basically be our launch pad for any other future missions to other planets.
Exactly, that's what I was going for. Like, you've got all this hydrogen 3 there, you've got all this other stuff, and it's such a perfect launch pad for getting to other places, including Mars, that I think we're overlooking the moon a little bit to a certain bit to our detriment. But I mean, look, the Mars rover mission was cool. I just think we really should be focusing more on the moon.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have fallen very far short in regards to what people expected 2021 is going to look like and what it did look like. I think if you asked people during the moon landing in 1969, what if we would have a moon base by 2021, they would say absolutely. And unfortunately, we haven't even gone back really to a large extent since then. In terms of a manned mission. So, I mean, just imagine going back to the moon with like modern high definition cameras and high tech recording instruments. Just imagine what else we could capture there with today's technology if we just go back.
Yeah, there's this YouTuber, I think it's called Xrubia. He's called Xrubia or something, where he was discussing that's the sort of effect where humanity we always envision utopia. Once we just get this one thing, it'll be utopia. Just this one thing is all we need, and we'll get to utopia. Like I said, it's an often repeated trope. But if you went back to Victorian England and you explained to them your smartphone, like this device that you can access almost all of human knowledge, you can instantly communicate with any other human from the other end of the world. They'd be like, gadzooks, man, that's amazing. And then they'd be like, so what do you use it for? And let's be honest, what most people use their phone for is cats, memes, and porn. It's just so while I'm very hopeful for I'm generally a technological optimist, as you know. Me, dude. What is it? Wotan's Law 3, the third law.
The third law of if there's a gadget available that you will have it.
Exactly.
If there's a futuristic gadget available.
Any technology, like if there is a kettle that measures the water temperature and changes color accordingly, if there's whatever, I got to have it.
Yeah, bro. But it is interesting to compare our expectations with what eventually happened. And maybe that type of perspective should be used to temper our expectations of the next 50 years.
Exactly. So I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm a technological optimist, but also I realize that we tend to envision utopia. Like, yeah, it will most definitely be a good thing to get. I mean, one of the other things that's a big plus is that we can, if we move our production out into space, it gets rid of a lot of issues with pollution and waste and all that, because it doesn't matter how much CO2 you pump into space. But so yeah, these technologies will help, but we have to realize that, like you said, you have to temper it. Like, you can't always envision. In fact, I think it is one of the most dangerous things about humanity is that if we have that thing that we can justify almost anything, and we can do almost anything if we believe this one thing will give us utopia.
Well, there's a reason why utopia or paradise in the Bible is guarded by an angel with a flaming sword. It's like that old saying goes, utopia is always on the other side of a bloody ocean, and you're in a rowboat, but you never get there. It's interesting to talk about the progression of human technology, but I think we always need to keep in perspective that sometimes our visions of the future are just not going to materialize, and a lot of the dystopian visions we have might materialize, which is the scary thing. Odin, is there a last story you wanted to discuss before we get out of here?
No, not really. Actually, I'm just enjoying my Sunday. I guess it's lunchtime here, evening there. I'm pretty chill. What about you?
Are there any restaurants or fast food chains in America that you've experienced that South Africa needs?
What do we need? Chick-fil-A, bro. It's so good. It's so good. Chick-fil-A. Actually, two of my friends. I live across the busiest from the road of the busiest Chick-fil-A in the state of Florida. Like, it is, except for Sundays, because Chick-fil-A is its upper management and owners are actually observant conservative Christians, and so Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. But except for Sundays, that place is jam-packed. It was so jam-packed that they actually had to build a second Chick-fil-A 2 streets over. Like, they're so close to each other. Like, you can see one from the other, and even that one is still fairly full. Like, there is permanently a line in front of Chick-fil-A, like in front of the Chick-fil-A. And there's another Chick-fil-A on campus near my faculty building. None of those are as busy as the one across the road from me. I don't know why, but there is always a line of... Well, I do know why, because their chicken is fucking delicious. It is just... The chicken and the waffle fries, it's out of this world.
I'll have to try it when I come visit you sometime, man. But yeah, I think when it comes to Chick-fil-A, it already has that brand. I mean, that closed on Sunday thing was referenced in that Kanye song.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything you want to cover before we roll out?
The last thing I wanted to cover was just the in South Africa, the new dawners are actually discovering the 4D chess narrative now, or that they've entered that stage of denial now in South Africa, where whenever Cyril now messes up, it's no longer just give him time. It's rather, no, actually, this is part of his master plan. This is all part of his 4D chess plan. Don't worry. It's all he's gonna drain the swamp, and it just sounds all very plagiarized.
There's a couple of MAGA movement people I could teach them a lesson or two about 4D chess, namely that it doesn't fucking exist. There is no. Do you see like the QAnon crews? I think there's a couple of diehards, because traditionally in years before, there's some ancient old regulation where the actual presidential inauguration was normally in March, and so there's a couple of extra QAnon theories floating around about that. Like it's something's gonna happen in March. I'm like, guys, let it go.
It's time to find a new hobby.
Go outside, man. Come on.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, no, this was an excellent chat, Odin. Seeing as I did the intro, I'll hand the mic over to you so you can do the outro.
Okay, cool. So this has been me, Wotan'sZA. My handle is still at Wotan'sZA on Twitter. yours is still at Con Caracal.
Yes.
And you can find the show at No Script Show. Yeah, we'll try to be more regular with our uploads. Till then, I say, and my tagline now is, my actual handle is that I'm Drake from State Farm, but that's a story for another time. So yeah, I'll say, what I will say is, yeah, things are the dust from the chaos is settling, but stay vigilant, because complacency is how people, sneak sometimes malicious changes in. So don't let complacency blind you. Stay good, be good to each other, and we will see you hopefully next week sometime.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Peace.